Welcome to TYTSports. Francis Maxwell here. I apologise if I'm a little giddy after just prank calling Jason. You've probably watched the video. How about we get a quick facial on Jason's reaction? How did it feel, Jace? Fantastic. Alright, make sure to check out that video anyway. Okay, so we are going to bring you another segment of 5 questions in 5 minutes. So let's get right to it. Jason, first question.
When do you think Italian teams will be a force in Europe once again? They've fallen a bit by the wayside.
I absolutely agree. The quick answer is I don't know. But it's easy for... You might think that's a naive answer, and I should know because I'm an expert, but the bottom line is you shouldn't, because Juventus are a great team in the Serie A, and they should be challenging more in Europe. But I feel as if the Juventus have been focusing more on the Serie A and becoming that dynasty there than they have in Europe, and it's hard to try and go between both. Maybe they should be focusing more on the Champions League, but we've seen that happen before in England. When Chelsea focused on the Champions League, they suffered in the league. That was the year they finished 6th, or even, I think it was 6th. So it's hard to try and get that comparison. With the teams of Inter Milan and AC Milan, they need to start signing world-class players again. It's an easy thing to say, but it has to happen. They haven't signed a player, like, you remember AC Milan in their day when they would win the Champions League consistently. They had their Seedorfs, they had Kaká in his prime. They had a strong back four. These Italian defences are no longer as strong as they had previously been. So they need to get back to that mentality of signing world-class players and being hard to beat at the back. AC Milan and Inter, especially in the last few Champions League reigns, they conceded far too many goals. AC lucky to make it into the last 16, I feel, most of the time, and they definitely struggle, and it shows. So a great question, and I hope to see them back in the top flight of Europe soon. But unless they start building from the back and signing world-class players again, and not selling their world-class players on, it's going to be hard for them to try and break the teams, whilst teams like Real Madrid and PSG continue to sign. So they have to get back to the top level to sign players. All right, next question.
So Max, love that it started with Francis Maxwell to Franny Max to now just Max. So Parchment 52. So Max, where do you see Liverpool finishing now?
So the good thing about these questions are I haven't read them before until now, so it's like literally an on-the-spot question, which is good because it's authentic, and I'll let you know. I feel Liverpool finish in top 4. I think this was on Balotelli after he is suggested to have signed for Liverpool. I don't think that's going to make them win the Premier League absolutely no way. A bit of a bold statement, but no way, because he simply does not replace Suarez, and they haven't added a good enough centre-back, a good enough defender to try and get him through. I think last year, especially against Crystal Palace, as we all seen, their defence is not strong enough, Liverpool, and I don't think they can win the Premier League, especially when they come up against head-to-head against the bigger teams. We'll see on Monday. We'll see how it happens, but if Balotelli can make that switch that they need, I know Jason's rooting for them, but I don't think it will have them win the league. I think they'll still be pushing for top 4. Next question.
Francis, what do you think of the Celtic score?
So, for a little background information, Celtic, a lot of people have been asking me to cover it. I was going to wait until the Maribor second leg, but Celtic were very lucky to get into the Champions League. Legia Warsaw actually fielded an eligible player, and it allowed for Celtic to appeal and get into the next round of the Champions League qualifying, even though they lost 6-1 on aggregate to Legia Warsaw. So now they've somehow scraped their way in, and they managed to get a 1-1 tie against Maribor, which will be good to take back to Celtic Park. So anything that wasn't a defeat, I was happy with, and I definitely think Celtic will pull it off and get into the Champions League, maybe undeservedly, but I'm not going to say anything against it because I'm a Celtic fan. So come on the hoops. Next question.
I laughed at your joke, Monday Night Football. Does that make me as lame or even more lame than you? I would
like to say that no one is as lame as me when it comes to my jokes. My jokes are horrendous. We all remember the brace joke. What was my best joke? The Shark Week joke with Suarez was a good one. That was acceptable. But my jokes are pretty horrendous, but I mean to make them horrendous because the stupidest jokes are the funniest jokes. So you're definitely not as lame as me. But even though that was a joke, we're actually taking that seriously, and we're going to bring you Monday Night Football. I don't really agree with the spelling of it like that, but anyway, to make it distinct so you don't think it's NFL. We're going to bring you Premier League, La Liga, any league that's had games in a recap on Monday, because there is games in Monday Night Football back home in the UK and in the Spanish League. Real Madrid will be our next Monday Night Football, as well as Man City, Liverpool. What a lineup that is. Next question.
Francis, do you support a Premier League side?
Support is a big word. I favour Manchester United simply because Not to be a bandwagoner. When it comes to the English Premier League, I don't favour any side more than I do Celtic. Celtics play against any of these teams. Undoubtedly, I'd want them to crush them to the very point of humiliation. But it doesn't mean that I don't favour a team when watching them. I used to love Manchester United because of Roy Keane. He's one of my favourite players, and he kind of incorporated me into the Manchester United way of life because I loved to watch how hard he worked and how he played, and with the likes of Scholes and Beckham in that was the glory days of Manchester United, and they made me a fan just from watching the way they played. And since then, I've grown to like a lot of the players. Dan Fletcher, who's one of Scotland's only good players, he actually plays for Manchester United, and I'm a fan of him doing well. I do like Wayne Rooney, but I wouldn't say support. I'm just a fan, and I favour them. Is that us done? That was 5 questions in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Continue to send them in because we're going to bring you this next week, of course. Tweet us about what happens this weekend in all sports and what happens in Premier League. What do you think about UFC? Any question that you want answered, make sure to tweet them in or comment in the section below, and we'll read them out next week. Thank you for tuning in. Check out our website. Bye-bye.